Hello and welcome to Dongamet channel. I just completed this 4-day Linerlock making course at the New England School of Metalwork, invigilated by Mr. Rick Dunkerley, an amazing knife maker. And yeah, this is the result so far. Now, towards the end of the course, what he was saying basically was that once he'd got the students through the heat treatment of the blade, he considered his job done. Because, of course, after that, I would imagine that for him, it would be a matter of hours to get to this point. And then after that, he could be spending tens or hundreds of hours finishing the knife because he does all this engraving and just amazing stuff, right? So I decided to try and replicate something that he does, which is instead of a nail nick or a thumb stud or whatever, putting some little peened pins in. I couldn't decide whether I should do 1, 2, 3, what. In the end, I tried to do 3 and space them equally. And that, what the bit just kept wandering. And this is kind of what, I guess it was as if this is what it wanted to do, right? 4, but the 2 in the middle and the 2 on the outside. So, who knows? Maybe it'll look good, and I'll attempt to replicate it. But that is really an accident. But of course, the idea being then you could get enough purchase off that to be able to open the knife. So yeah, it's a Linerlock. You just heard the little dink, and as we can see, that looks like a late lockup. That's not really what we were going for. And I had problems with this. But interesting, this is the way that Rick Dunkerley does his Linerlocks as a rule, as opposed to your typical thing where, and this one is like none more later, but does have no front to back rock yet, no slop, but it's traveling all the way over there. It's a little sticky as well. But it works okay, actually, for time being. And as you can see, yeah, it goes all the way down, right? So that is an aesthetic difference, really. It works much the same either way, but I have to agree that looks way cooler. It looks way more tidy. And this, yeah, it doesn't look so bad, but depending on how I open it and how I use it, I can get it to travel too far, and then it sticks. That was okay. Also, maybe if I tighten up the pivot a little bit now. But yeah, it's definitely, maybe also because I use the knife to carve, and that wouldn't it be funny if it now stops doing what I'm saying? I mean, it would be great for me if it now stops doing that, because that means the knife is okay. But maybe if I do a little bit of this quickly. And then we'll see what happens. See? All the way over there now. And it's stuck in there. It's stuck in there, and I don't have my pry tool in my pocket, even. Shameful. However, I have this kit here, which I think is pretty good. You get this at the Home Depot. But, I saw what other guys were using at the course, for example, and I thought that this little screwdriver here is really pretty good. Oftentimes they're longer. They're a lot longer, and for working on this, you don't need that extra length of handle at all. So, yeah, we got that's a problem. So now quickly, what I'm going to try and do is without. Okay, because also each one of these screws is a bit different. If it were everything made to perfect tolerance, they wouldn't have to be, but in fact they are. So I have to be very careful about how I disassemble the knife and remember what I'm doing, right? So I want to have it this way around. right, which is the left side of the knife with the pivot on the left. Put that there. In fact, I'll put it there. Oh, I guess I can leave those in there like that. Yeah, so that's, now you can see how the knife is constructed, right? The scales are bolted on through these holes. That hole does nothing. And the pivot goes through everything. And these are what hold the lock bar in place. So take them out. And in fact, at this stage, again, I don't necessarily need to disassemble the whole thing. So what I can do is just take it apart like that. So I have my lock bar, and then when I want to replace it, I can put the whole thing back down again, carefully. Here's my little washer. And yeah, so this one I do have to disassemble completely. I'll get that later. So maybe I'll put that there. There. Okay. So we can see here that is a little bit mashed there, and that is because I had to peen this out, because when I was adjusting it, I over adjusted, and now I've got dogs bugging me. What is it? What is it? Bear with me a second, I just got to make sure there's not a fox or anything. It's fine, shut up! Stay calm. I'll be with you in 5. It's nearly that moment of the day that the dogs have to go out. Do excuse me. So, yeah, so I peened that out, and then it worked okay, but over time it deteriorated. And I have a carbonizer. However, what that did also was draw it out. See how there's practically no gap there? And that is something that Rick will do deliberately. You could also do it on this side, right? And then you make it disappear using file work or whatever. You know, you wouldn't be doing it all by accident. You'd be doing it deliberately to just close this all up. So that is cool. There's still presumably enough of a gap there that if I do, as and when I do, carbonize this face, because I figure that if I carbonize this, which is 15 and 20 steel, by the way. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, 15 and 20 carbon steel. Very tough stuff. So if I carbonize both these faces, maybe that will make it flush. And that will solve that problem. And then I will have other problems to solve. One of these scales chipped out. I'm not even sure how that happened. But presumably it's because what this is like chunks of celluloid, smashed up celluloid, perhaps remnants from making straight razors or something, you know, remnants of celluloid. And then I think this is like an early kind of catalytic resin, you know, like an epoxy resin that they've done. And it seems to have maybe been swirled because there are it's kind of red overall, but there are completely translucent areas which allow you to see through to the liners and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool stuff, but it's very variable in terms of some of this stuff is really brittle, but the resin overall is very smooth. So yeah, it shipped out massively like that. Now, of course, that means I don't want to start rounding. You could hide a lot of it with the rounding, but it's too deep. So I want to fill that with epoxy and then do the rounding, the finishing. So I'm leaving everything flat for now. And that was a piece of advice from Rick as well. Keep everything flat for as long as you can, because it's so much easier to work on things in the flat. That's habitually never how I do things. I do something like, I'll carve a knife handle. I'll carve it so that it's comfortable, and then I'll figure out how to put the blade in there or whatever. It's just another way of doing things that doesn't have to be bad, but it's not very efficient or whatever. So yeah, that's a little update, and I see that I'm up to 11 minutes now, and the dogs want to go out and da-da-da. So I will pause this experience of mine and go and take care of the canines and what have you, and then I will come back and carbonize this and reassemble it and see how that goes. I'll probably make a video out of that. Thanks for watching.